Let's talk tourism.
Richard Bexon, one of my oldest buddies, tourism guru, newly found investment, real estate, construction guru, seen a lot of things, been a lot of places. We're here start kicking off a new year, Richard, and it's starting with a bang in Venezuela that probably none of us foresaw. But if you had a title for your book for 2026 for investors, what would you call it?
I thought about this for a little bit, and then I was just like, I used it the other day. I think it's going to be called sorting the wheat from the chaff. You know,
Fair.
I think that a lot of dreamers came in to Costa Rica, and now I think because of, I mean, we recently chatted on we're kind of doubling up on podcasts here, but we recently chatted about like, look, we don't think there's going to be that much variation this year. There's a lot of product out there. I think we're going to find out who the real operators are. So, you know, I think there's going to split into, two camps, people who actually build, operate, and deliver returns, and people that can sell a beautiful story, but like can't really execute. And I think rising construction costs, tighter liquidity, more sophisticated guests, because they're going to start to require more and more, it means that you can't fake it till you make it, man. So yeah, it's going to be about track record operations, and basically delivering the renders and the promises that you're delivering. And I think there's going to be a lot of spilt milk
Good analysis.
in the development world for sure, in the real estate world. Like already seeing it. Somebody mentioned Avianas the other day. There are like, you know, a couple of new developments there that are having difficulty moving. And
Mm.
I also know individual builders that have gone in and built there and are having issues selling their properties.
And why do you think that is?
Number one, didn't build something unique, case. That's number one. Number two, the financing element needs to be big there as well. Like you should be in bed with a financing arm even before you've started your project. Like, you can't expect everyone to come in and write $1 million checks.
Mm.
So you need to go like, look, uh, we've already got you 20, 30 year fixed mortgage, like 6%. You can come in. We also manage it for you. And that property management basically will just pay for your house. So you don't actually have to end up paying for it. Like it kind of, it's operation and what it generates pays for the mortgage that you have because it's all under one roof rather than
Mm.
being like, and that's where like I think a lot of people don't understand it, cases. You need to do the whole thing integrated. Like, but again, that's my point of view. But like the developer has to build and has to operate at the same moment in time, or choose an operator,
Yeah.
choose a builder, and be in
Yeah.
bed so that again that execution's throughout so that you can drive up that average daily rate, deliver those returns to that finance that they have, and also appreciate the value of the property as well and keeps it at a well maintained, because as you start you soon to bring in 5, 10, 15, 20 different property managers, man. They all have different standards and different maintenance, methods, and it just becomes a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
So
What's a,
yeah.
sorry, jump ahead. I don't know if you wanted to finish your thought there.
No, I mean, I think that's it. Sorting the wheat from the chaff, case, and I think we're very clearly going to see that. Like, it's time to see that. Like, hey, like, I'm looking forward to it. It's like it's work time now, guys. Like, it's not, you can't just put your money out, your hand out, and money lands in it. It's like you actually need to operate and deliver returns.
I think I mentioned to you on the topic of operating, I had lunch today with one of our oldest friends who's probably the best hotel operator in the region, which
Yep.
is Hans Pfister of Cayuga, Cornell grad, hat tip Cayuga River. Uh, why do you think there's so few professional operators in Costa Rica, meaning hospitality operators?
Because it's tough and there ain't that much money in it, case. Like,
Two good
it's
reasons.
Well, it's tough because it's people management, and everybody's trying to run after technology, which is like, I want to make money, with at least amount of people as possible, because it's the company's biggest asset and the biggest liability that does not exist on their balance sheet, I always say. So I think it's difficult because it's labor intensive. You're dealing with human beings. There's a lot of emotion involved, and there's a lot of investment in training. So I think that that's, one. And then also is that, I mean, just the economics of it, case of like having that hotel property or that hotel operator how much do they have to charge in order for them to be able to make money, for them to have the back office of HR and to do all that? Like, it's just the economics sometimes can be very difficult. So it's only higher end hotels that can really afford to do that. And it's not a sexy business that throws off tons of cash. There are easier ways to make money, and a lot of people are doing stuff for money. Like Hans does not essentially do it for money. Like he never talks about money a lot of the time. For him is it's legacy and about what he's passionate about. You know,
Another purist.
I mean, we talked about it that like, yeah, I mean, another purist that, but that's what made this country great were
Of
those
course,
purists that were here.
boy,
You know,
you would think that now that we have a lot more inventory and a lot more absentee ownership, there's going to be some opportunities for more high quality property managers.
well, I say yes, Case. Look, I'm now in management. You know, I didn't want to be in construction. I'm now in construction. 4 years ago, I was like, I don't want to be in property management. And now I'm in property management for my own developments. But why? Because, you know, I come from tourism, it's my foundation. We both do. We know what clients want and what their expectations are. And there aren't that many people that deliver that and really understand it. Like today I was sat down, I was working on, we did some meals over the Christmas period with the person that runs Manuel Antonio, and we looked at the numbers and went, guys, we lost money. We lost money on meals. And I was like, I'm not upset, guys. I'm like, let's just figure a way to make money doing it or just don't do it and outsource it anymore. But why am I not upset? Because we got stunning 5-star reviews, and that's worth more than the money that was lost on those meals, if that makes sense. Like, if you were like, Rich, you can lose a couple of $1,000, but I can give you, 10 5-star reviews, which one would you rather? I'm like, I would pay that amount for those reviews, if that makes sense. And she was like, wow, I didn't really think about it like that.
Do you think that part of the problem with hotel management, property management, et cetera, is the investor owner folks don't necessarily know that they need it?
Correct. I mean, I think what a lot of the time case is it's their house. Like, if that makes like as an investor, it's different, but maybe, but even not. It's kind of like I just want someone to. It's more like asset management rather than like, hey, I need this to generate a return.
Right.
You know. So a lot of the time, it's like, hey, I have a house in Costa Rica. As long as it pays for its bills, everything is fine. The investors are very different, but like it's a lot of work to generate those returns for investors as well. And property managers, just a lot of people come down here to have fun, Case, and chill out. And a lot of the property managers are kind of like, hey, I was working up in the States as a builder or something like that, and I decided that this was what I wanted to do, and now I take care of 5 or 7 homes, and or the guy's retired and the wife takes it, or vice versa. And like it's not professional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not they don't, it's not putting food on their table. Uh so yeah.
Of all the folks you've worked with helping make investments or advising or even, f free consultations over the last few years, what's the best investment decision you've seen somebody make in the last 3, 4 years?
Well, actually, there were, this might sound weird because it's not pro Costa Rica. I had a client who had a property on the North Shore case that was making 12% return a year, and they were going to basically sell that in order to buy a place in Costa Rica as an investment. And I said, you're not going to get 12% return in Costa Rica, guys, for your investment. They were like, what? I'm like, you won't do it. Like, you've got everything there. You've worked, like, why would you start from the beginning down here in a country that like it's too much? Just keep what you've got up there. That 12% return, use it to vacation in Costa Rica. Like that was my advice for them. Not everyone comes like that, but I mean, yeah, but some of the best stuff that I've seen, Case, like I'm just trying to think about like the best investment decision that I've seen, in the past 5 years here. Um, I mean, I think it's those like it's like remodel small companies case where people have just decided to kind of peel off on their own that were working in other businesses and peel off on their own and be like, I saw one the other day, which was a cleaning company case that comes in and cleans houses because all these property management companies, whatever, have all these employees cleaning and it's a nightmare. I mean, it's
Sure.
low level, uneducated staff, if that makes sense, and a lot of stuff. They have problems, those problems become yours, but they're like, a lot of the time people say, I just want to push that off to someone else and for them to deal with it. So sometimes you'll find, I don't know, a cleaner or like a supervisor that's like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to have 10 or 20 maids, and they'll come in and clean places. And it's great for the property managers because they just outsource it and put the bills on the individual houses. So I think it's that nuts and bolts businesses is where I've seen a lot of stuff like landscaping case,
Yeah.
pool
Yeah.
maintenance, like
Yeah.
the ugly stuff. That's the best investments I've seen.
You know, since you and I have been down here for a while and we've seen vacation homes, hotel construction designs, it's pretty incredible from before pandemic to after pandemic how much more sophisticated the whole process has gotten. In particular, like you're referencing, specialization.
Yep.
Like there weren't but maybe a half a dozen interior designers in Costa Rica 10 years ago, right? Now there's probably 3 dozen,
Yep.
much less high-end cabinet builders or you name it. But like so much demand came in and the standards and the quality got so much higher that we're now seeing like a proper dev stack
Yep.
of suppliers that just
Yep.
didn't exist prior.
The difficulty is finding, like, again, sorting out which ones, the wheat from the chaff, which ones are good and which ones aren't.
Didn't say they were all good. Just but there's a lot more options, right? Whereas there just didn't used to be.
You know, yeah, I mean, I still think like that. Also, some stuff that's done very well, case are just like those boutique developments, 6 to 12 villas in a private community that's subdivided, very small and boutique. And people seem to like that. It's the nature of
Sure.
Costa Rica rather than these, 100 villas, being built or something. Like people want to feel that something they're buying is unique and special. Um, so yeah,
What's a what's a bad idea or a mistake that you see that gets repeated often, or when people by the time people have reached you, they've already made 2 or 3 goofy mistakes.
I think number one is thinking it's thinking that the rules in your home country apply here, meaning that,
Sure.
like, I mean, I remember a hotelier that had a place in Florida that sold it, and it was way out of Florida, like way out of Miami. It was like 30 minutes outside of Miami, and he sold it, made a fortune. He went and bought a hotel outside Tamarindo, and I'm like, dude, that's gonna be pushing a builder up like a boulder up a hill. And he's like, no, 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 it worked for me in Florida. I'm like, dude, the rules don't apply here. Like, and he's like, no, I had tons of like business travel. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't know how that works here in Costa Rica. Maybe there is a market for it. Maybe I'll, eat my words, but like the rules don't apply. I think also land developers case. I think there's a lot of people that came in for land development, that are like, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to buy a big chunk of piece of land, I'm going to chop it all up, and then I'm going to sell those bits of land. I'm like, dudes, like you better be ready for that because that's not like this. You better, even developers in the US that come down here get beat up doing that, man.
Sure.
It takes years. It will, like, if you spend 1 million on the land, you're going to need at least 1 million for infrastructure, and also expect to wait 2 to 3 years before you're even moving ground, with all the permitting. And then, what cycle are we in now? After those 2 to 3 years, and then I just go back to the financing element, and like, there's a way to do this and structure it. And just Costa Rica is just not, I always say to people, like, if you want to make money, don't do it down here. Go to stay in your home countries.
Seems that we might be at a period in time where we're going to see projects that are just starting fail pretty quickly.
Correct. Correct. Because look, maybe it's not a kilo, but you just need all the parts in it, case. That's the thing. Like, and you can't just be like, I'm just going to develop land and sell lots. I mean, you can, but like, you're not really adding value.
Yeah, in development, it seems like it's a lot easier to fail than it is to succeed.
I would say probably 90% of developers end up failing, case,
Yeah, it's not easy.
you know, because they just don't understand the time it's going to take and the money that it's going to require. And yeah, it's going from land to an actual building is difficult enough, you know, but yeah,
What's some of the back to the thing you and I probably talk about the most is this intersection or nexus between tourism and real estate. What's some touristic or hotelier thinking that you think that more developers need to adopt?
it's funny that you say this, case, because I'm going through this at the moment, in a prominent development where I might stop. There's already We've already done one development there. We're like one beachfront condominium. There's another one that's happening in the property, and then there's another one that they're thinking about doing. And I'm like, look, let's think about this a little bit different here. It's a hotel that you're building, not a land development. I get that you've done one, but you need to think a little bit different because you're going to be competing with other of these developers now. You need to like obsess over running it like a hotel. Okay, there's going to be other villas there. Partner with like one property management company, a really high-end property management company, or create one yourself and really start to think about stuff like staff access, storage, service corridors, and like so that staff and guests aren't crossing each other, if that makes sense. Uh, Maintenance like visibility stuff, linen flow case that like don't do all the linen in the place, like build a back of house operations when building and it may sound crazy, like, Rich, what are you talking about? Like a residential development doing this? I'm like, the majority of the homes are going to turn into vacation rentals.
Right.
You need to run them like a hotel because they need to do that. And they need to have hotel level services.
So, I
And
mean, really, it's a hotel with 20 owners, right?
correct, correct. And probably 20 owners with 20 different villas that are four bedroom, like it's an 80-room hotel. So you need to design it such. You can still have your laundry and everything in the houses, but like the owner has their own lawn, their own sheets and everything, and their own like owner closet, but everything else is run like a hotel. It's all the same sheets run by the property management company. It's all the same linens. It's all the same, shampoos and conditioners. If you're doing breakfast in the villas as well, it's all the same stuff. Like you're running a hotel.
And what do you see as a common design flaw that's a guest experience killer?
Look, Costa Rica's a sunny place, dude, and it's hot. Like spaces with no shade. They build a box and there's no shade outside.
Right.
They build a box, there's a pool outside, and it's just like, okay, like it's a 5, 6 bedroom home. There's 10 to 20 people there. Where are they going to sit that's not inside the house? Because if they're going to sit inside the house, they might as well be at home. Like where are those outdoor spaces with shade that you
Right.
can be in? Or we get the other extreme, which is rain sideways. So now I'm stuck in the house. I get like people want to be outside,
Right.
so you just have to kind of think about these things a little bit more. Um, and just like stuff like loud, echoey, heavy materials case, the rain comes down hard here, bedrooms without blackouts, which they sometimes don't think, or like airflow consideration as well, especially the humidity that we have here. You need to really think about that in a house. Um, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's comfort still wins, dude. And like, but we just need to, there's so much stuff like gardening design and irrigation, electrical backups, these kind of things where people just aren't thinking about it because electricity now and internet is like when the electric goes out, if you at least have internet, people are usually typically happy and running water. But like it could be as simple as the pump that does the water goes out when the electric goes out, and it's not on a separate system that can still be used, if that makes sense, when the electrical, unit goes out.
And on the flip, what are some design elements or amenities or guest services that vacation rentals, villas, homes, condos now need to deliver that maybe were really unique or rare 3, 5 years ago?
Wow. Are we talking like design or service or both?
Anything. I'm just saying, like, what are guests starting to expect now? Like,
Chef services,
you
like,
know,
meals inside the properties, um, experiences inside pizza ovens, barbecues, heated jacuzzis. Beforehand, we didn't do heated jacuzzis, case,
right, right, the
here.
cold tub.
Now everyone wants heated jacuzzis. And sometimes they'll have that heated jacuzzi running into the swimming pool, which is retarded. Like, why would you do that? I know it looks good, but like that's just a waste.
It is a weird one.
Um, and I think on the service front, it's just the 24/7 availability, dude. Someone wants to hit a button and someone to pick up the phone. Like it's like having a front desk. Like there has to be a concierge available 24/7. Um,
Any architectural trends you're seeing now? You're like, get rid of that terrible idea. Meaning, like, what's stuff that the architects are throwing into all the plans almost out of habit now that you're like, that's not going to work, or that's so trendy that it's going to be terrible in 3 years.
Huge walk-in closets in all the bedrooms. Like, I mean, if you lived in it, I get it, but like it's a vacation rental, man. Like, a lot of the time and stuff. But if you're not living in it, like don't build, I mean, okay, have storage, but like there's no need to have every single bedroom has its own walk-in closet. Like That's like never going to be used in dead space. Um, I mean, I think it's like into dining lounge area doesn't need to be amazing. The stuff needs to be outside. We spend the majority of our time outside. To spend your money on your pool, your jacuzzis, slides in my case, which is where we do it, sunken living areas, barbecue, terrace areas. Like people are usually typically traveling together in groups of people,
Hmm.
and want those social areas. So you need to create those social areas and those nooks and crannies. And also one thing to do is like still create that Instagram moment. I mean, when we had VBO, we did it with that swing where everyone was like, "You're retarded. What are you putting a swing up for?" And I'm like, every client took a picture in the swing. It's like that hand up, that chimba that everyone takes a picture of. Like you need to create like one of those things on site.
Yeah, they're almost like obligatory. You need the angel wings that people can stand in front of.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
Anything
but
that you think's goofy or just trendy, like that, like shag carpet in the 70s?
um, I mean, a lot of the time at the moment, it's like, I mean, I wouldn't, we're in this modern tropical world at the moment, where everything looks like modern tropical. They all want to use wood everywhere case, which I'm like, that's great, guys, but the maintenance on that's an absolute nightmare. Like, I'm still yet to have a client that's like, oh, I'm so glad I chose wood for that. No, we're all ripping it all up and putting in WPC, which is still 80, 90% wood. It's just 10% kind of plastic, but like, you don't need to maintain it.
What have you walked into a property and seen a maintenance thing like a 30-foot high window? You're like, who's going to clean that?
Yeah, I mean, see it all the time, dude. I mean, I even have it on one of my properties where I'm like, dudes, how does someone get access to that? And it's something that we didn't catch. How does someone get access to clean the windows in that thing? Well, if they, put their hand behind their head and then reach down underneath, they'll be able to get. I'm like, dudes, come on, man. Like, let's keep it simple.
But like every 4 years when Cirque du Soleil comes through, you can have them take the bird's nest down that's from the top.
Yeah.
So on the topic of legal, meaning development laws, regulations, etc., is there anything you would like to see firmed up in terms of development rules and laws? And counter to that, anything you'd like to see modified or changed in terms of deregulation or re-regulation?
I always say to people, like, I'm very happy that it's difficult case, because I think it protects Costa Rica a little bit. Because I think if it was easy, we'd be developing left, right, and center here.
Keeps
And
the assholes out.
correct, it does. And really keeps like people that really want to like, do things here, whether that's a hotel case or even building a home. I mean, sometimes it can be a nightmare. I think it's just more standardized permitting kind of timelines, where we can
Hmm.
get an idea of how like they did have a thing a while back, I think, when, the current president came in, which was like, look, they got 30 days to do it. If not, it auto approves. Like, I'm yet to see that implemented, but I'd love to see those standardized in certain institutions, where it's just a little bit faster and standardized. I think clear zoning as well. In some areas we have like a plan regular, which is like a regulatory zoning plan where it's very clear of what you can do. In other areas we don't, so you can kind of do whatever you want. It moves to the government national, like level, and the
Right.
government level like then is just very like vague. Um, but I think also at a municipal level, because everything goes like to the like if you're building a house, the College of Engineers and their municipal level. If you're doing developments, a lot of the time it goes to an institutional government level and then comes to municipality level. Now, the government institutional level usually interprets it very standard because it's just one standardization. But then you get to the municipal level, and every municipality interprets stuff different, you know. And I had so many meetings, like I'm going to say with Kepos Mooney, in order for them to interpret certain things of what we were doing, that I didn't have the issue in San Carlos, or in San Ramon, those kind of things. So it's just that like less subjective interpretation at the municipal level.
Is obtaining a water letter still the biggest challenge in most beach destinations in terms of construction permits?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that will continue to be case because, I mean, you have your at the national level AIA, and then you have these sub ASADAs, like the community water run, institutions, which are overseen by the AIA, but like these are just community run institutions that don't have the money for the infrastructure. So it's only big developers that can come in, and then it takes a while. You need a bunch of studies, and then AIA needs to approve it. But yeah, I mean, water, I would say in the Guanacaste area is definitely going to continue to be an issue. In other areas, it's not so much. There's abundance of it in the central southern Pacific, in the Central Valley, and also in, the northern areas, Arenal, Monteverde. I mean, it's tons of water. But Guanacaste, yeah, I mean, it's gonna continue to be tough up there because of that.
If you had to guess of a lesser known investment destination, if somebody was looking for the next up and coming thing, or they just want to be a little more off the beaten track, where are the places that you think hold a lot of potential for the next 10 years?
I mean, you and I chatted on the podcast, which is here in the Central Valley. 100% agree, Case. Mountains of Heredia, mountains of Escazú, stuff that's like 30, 40 minutes away that appears close, but it's not like, it still feels like you're out in the countryside, you know. I mean, I think you've probably got a lot of that if you're up in the northeast, area. There's probably a lot of that in some of those areas. So just kind of copying that a little bit because Ticos and expats don't always want to travel 3, 4, 5 hours to the beaches at weekends, but they do want to get away somewhere. But also, it's a hot country, so if you can get elevation with climate that's cool and fireplaces and like feels a little bit European, if that makes sense, or even North American, I think that could be very interesting.
Mhm.
Um, I think Monteverde is a good one as well, Case, that like, I mean, it's kind of not really been done. There's a couple of nice homes up there, but I think that one, is, I'm going up there in the next coming weeks, to take a look at that.
Yeah, I never thought I would say Monteverde is underrated, but in some ways I do think it is.
Yeah.
If you
I
had to make a
think
big, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I look, I mean, if I was to take a punt, Case, but this is just more of a personal thing. Driving from Catargo, you can get to Mount Antonio like pretty quickly through Dota,
Mm,
Santa Maria, Dota, Tarazul, all that whole coffee region
yeah,
that's starting to develop a little bit. I mean, there's some nice stuff over there. You've got that Copay winery, which has now started to produce wine. So you've got wine and coffee over there with amazing views, amazing, you know, uh, just again, coffee. Like,
yeah.
it's yeah, and I want my dream is to have a coffee plantation out there with my house in it. I don't want to run the coffee plantation, but I just want to stare at coffee and drink my own coffee.
It is lovely. It's lovely over there. And you would also think as San Jose, greater San Jose gets bigger and bigger, the east side of the city is going to continue to grow. And for
Yep,
those folks, it's just so much easier to rip over to the eastern destinations and
yep.
the southeastern destinations. Whereas for us, it kind of comes off our radar because it's that extra 45 minutes to cross town. You're like, man, big, bold prediction for 2026, Richard, and you can't say Venezuela regime change. That's already been taken.
But like, in general, or Costa Rica,
In general, for Costa Rica, if you were to make a big, bold prediction 12 months from now, what's something that might not be so obvious that you think may come true?
God, wow. I mean, I think we're probably going to have a regime change in the government, in politics, even though if you listen to everyone, they'll be like, no, this Lauro Fernandez, who's like the same party as the current president. But like, I'm like, dude, this happens every election. It was DeSantis last time. I can't remember who it was last time, and they weren't even in the running. So
Hmm.
someone's going to come out of this that's not there, and that could be good or bad case because we've seen it before. So I'm hoping it's going to be a center right person, that's going to be pro investment, exchange rate. But what do I think? I don't think the exchange rate's going to change that much, Case. That's what my
No?
bold prediction is. I think it's
Okay.
going to stay where it's at, 490, 500, somewhere around there. You know, I think a lot of people are expecting it to be like, oh, we get a new government and it's going to shoot up. I'm like, it's not. I think it's just going to stay where it's at the moment. Um,
I think those are two reasonably sound prognostications. Well, on that note, Richard, Happy New Year. Thanks
Happy
for
New Year.
making the time. Could talk about this stuff with you all day.
Sounds good, bud.
Let's talk tourism.